Breaking point, and I'm reaching mine. Jesus. Alright, Breaking Point is the new gear set introduced for... What are we on now? Is this the first part of Year 6, apparently? Breaking Point was introduced during the last PTS, and it was hit with some of the worst feedback I have ever seen in this game, and the devs basically ignored all of it. Although there has been some changes to the set, when I say some, one, it wasn't the change we were actually trying to get changed. It wasn't what we wanted, and the overall performance of this build / set is hinging on the one problem everyone bloody had. Now, there are some things you can do with this set that kind of put it in the running for okay to actually this is pretty damn good, but the overall set itself and how it performs is lackluster. It's terrible. It's bloody terrible. And the reason for it being terrible is the problem we had during the PTS. Uptime. That is the whole problem. And you're going to be hearing it the whole way through this damn video. Uptime. So the 2-piece gives us 25% rifle and 25% marksman rifle damage. The 3-piece is 30% headshot and then 15% weapon handling. And the 4-piece is on point. Hitting an enemy with a rifle or MMR grants a stack. Max stack is equal to the magazine size. Reloading grants 2% weapon handling, 4% weapon damage per stack for 10 seconds. No stacks are required while the bonuses are active. This is one of the largest points. Because of when you have this buff active, you're not gaining stacks. The uptime on this is... the most you can get is 50-50, but then due to accuracy, stability, blah, it ends up falling way lower than that. I think on average, I'm getting about 22 to 30%, and that's on a good day. Switching weapons while the bonuses are active will stop the effect and refill the magazine. Switching weapons while the bonuses are not active will remove the stacks and refill your magazine. Now, the two problems we have with this, like I said one earlier, like when you actually have the buff active, you can't gain stacks. This is a huge detriment. It basically negates so much of this set. It would be so much better, and I'd actually be praising it if they just removed that one line. The second one is they've stated that maximum stacks is wholly dependent on your magazine. It actually isn't. It seems to be like 1 or 2 bullets over your magazine, which is very, very bizarre. So here we have the Breakpoint build with a Dread Edit, which has 10 rounds. Just going to go through the shots quite slowly, and I've kept the sound in so that you can hear the actual shots. So 8, 9, 10. We've still got space on the buff. We're now just going to waste the buff because we're just counting the stacks. So as you can see, we are getting a damage increase. It is applying. This build does actually work pretty well with Dread Edit, by the way. But now, due to Dread Edit's mechanic, we're now actually going to just go even further. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Still got room for a stack. 12 shots. 12 damn shots to get the full buff. Why? I can understand if it was 1 because you can do the double load, but 12 makes no sense at all. Now for the backpack talent, increases on point damage from 4 to 6. Now this is actually kind of a nice change, and it does coincide with one of the change, well, the only change they actually really made. Originally, the damage buff was 2%. It's now 4. And then with the backpack talent, it goes from 4 to 6. And then with the chest talent, increases on point bonuses timer from 10 seconds to 15. This is actually also kind of nice because particularly with some of the rifles we have and with how the gear set works, it massively favors rifles with a larger magazine. Problem is, the buff doesn't actually last long enough for some of the more DPS styled rifles, such as the lightweight M4, which is what I'm using in this video. If you put the 50 round mag on it, you just run out of time before you even get the full magazine worth of damage out. So Having an increased timer is also quite nice. The problem is neither of these talents are able to compensate for an actual chest or backpack talent in terms of overall performance, regardless of really what talent they would be. So I can't really recommend them. I'm sure with a little bit of playing around and like trying to like tweak a few things here and there, we could potentially find something for a very niche scenario of where they will be of use. But for general use, running around the open world like a lunatic and doing missions, no, not worth it. Now, for the build that I'm using in this video and what I'm going to be using a comparison for is I'm using 4-piece breaking point, all rolled to critical hit damage, and then I have the sacrifice as well as the gift, 2-piece providence. This gives me another 15% headshot and another 10% critical hit chance. These are rolled crit chance, crit damage. I have 3 critical hit chance mods in, and everything else is basically, like I said, critical hit damage. This gives me 60% critical hit chance and 139 critical hit damage. So this is the build at base. I've got it then with the stacks at 30 and then the stacks at 50. I personally prefer 30. I find the weapon more comfortable and easier to use, as well as I can make full use of the buff. This is the difference in the damage. It is quite hefty, going up even like 47%, and then with the 50 stack, you go up to like 78% from its base values. This is some pretty hefty damage. The problem is, this is assuming a 100% maximum uptime, as well as you are landing all of your shots. Likelihood is, you aren't. So if we now factor in 1, the 50% uptime, 2, the best I actually did while messing around with this in the open world, and then compare it to just a normal high-end DPS build, Contractors, Foxes, 3-piece Providence, Coyote's Mask, you can see that on the 30 stack, they're basically the same. Sure, we get a fair bit more on the 50 stack, but honestly, with the 50 stack, the highest I actually got was against the Chunga. So I don't really want to say whether that counts or not, whereas the rest were none. In short, once you take all of the mechanics into account, how often you're going to have like uptime with it, as well as accuracy, stability, bloody, just everything else involved in this set, it is barely better than a high end. Barely. Just about. Which is massively disappointing. And just to highlight what I mean, even if we missed half of our shots, but we're able to still gain stacks while the buff is active, this is what we would get. So this is literally missing half of our shots. So we're only landing 15 on the 30 and 25 on the 50, but we have the buff up permanently. This would be more than good enough. Just remove that one damn sentence, please, for crying out loud. Now, just to clarify, because I'm aware someone's going to mention it, oh, you seem to be getting pretty high on the stacks in the footage that we're watching. Yeah, that's Boomerang, by the way. That's like literally, like, in order to actually make maximum use of the buffs and the stacks at all times, I am beyond reliant on Boomerang, which is, for me at least, due to the RNG nature of Boomerang, is not really a good way to go. I would much prefer to actually go Rifleman, because that would genuinely feel better overall. The next point I want to make, and I don't have footage of this, and it's basically 4-piece breaking point, all rolled to headshot damage, and then you put chain killer and whatever else you want for headshot. And the idea behind this is once you've emptied the mag, you just swap weapon, and this will refill the magazine. This is probably one of the most useful things from this set, and we're essentially ignoring the entire mechanic of the set, wholly relying on chain killer, or well, headhunter realistically, to do all of the work. And all we're utilizing is while the buff is active, or when you have stacks building up, if you swap weapon, it will reload. So the entire set is literally, how bad does a set have to be for one of the best things about it to be turning your game into Fortnite? And my final point here, and I have to give a shout out to Monsieur Rousey, simply because I honestly didn't think about this. Now, with the combination of Habsburg, Breaking Point, Aces, and Hotshot, we're actually able to get some pretty substantial damage out with use of Ninja Bite Backpack on a Headhunter build. See, the original problem with running Ninja Bite Backpack on Headhunter builds was once you get your stacks going, Ninja Bike is fine. The problem is it's that first shot. You need that first shot to do as much as possible, which is where a backpack talent utilizing something like Vigilance would come in handy. Get that first shot, that first stack. After that, the rest of your build realistically doesn't matter. It's all about the Headhunter. However, with, like I just said, Breaking Point, Hotshot, Aces, and now Habsburg, I've just got random pieces here thrown in, but it's all perfectly fine. It works great. We've dropped like maybe 2% damage overall, 2%, which is nothing compared to like the near 30% damage Ninja Bike was originally doing to Headhunter builds. So we're actually able to now effectively use Ninja Bite Backpack in a really, really effective way. That hurts so much to say. Ugh. On Headhunter builds, simply just because we have a plethora of all of these pieces. Now, for the maximum output on this style of build, what you're seeing on screen now is the best way to build it. It gives us 5% weapon damage, 5% damage to armor, 25% MMR and rifle damage from Breaking Point. It's giving us 15 MMR damage from Aces and 8, and then from Hotshot, we're getting 30% MMR and 30% weapon handling. And then finally from Habsburg, 15 headshot, 20 MMR. I did try mixing it around a few times with like different pieces, 2 Aces, 2 Hotshot, 2 Breaking Point, 2 Hotshot, 2 Breaking Point, 2 Aces, blah, 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 blah. Doing it one piece each absolutely ended up being the most beneficial, as hopefully you can see now, like I'm going through the individual pieces. This absolutely did end up being the most beneficial out of all of them. So if you do plan on making an MMR build in this manner, this is the one I would suggest you go. And obviously for all you weird hackers, determined players, go nuts. So yeah, overall, not too impressed with Breaking Point, simply just because of that one damn line. Can't gain stacks while the buff is active. Anyway, that is just about going to do it for this video. Have fun, good luck, don't die. Bad for the health.